Oh, yeah, we're live from 304 Studios in Jonesboro, Arkansas. This is an stspod.club production. I just want to thank everyone for, well, the massive response to all episodes Memphis in May. We appreciate it. And I looked at the numbers and we changed some things around. On Monday, we'll be doing the Retro Wrestling Review Power Pro Wrestling Podcast. That's right. Every Monday at 2 p.m. Central Time, it'll be released. And on Thursdays, a special edition episode, including Cassette Wrestling News, WTF, Hit Me With Your First Shot, all of those. And on Saturday, it will be rolling into Memphis. I want to welcome you to the 9th episode. I'm the longtime producer of The Record Store. Each episode of this podcast will feature a guest that will bring us their first album they ever bought. We will review it, talk about it, and have some fun. Today's guest is bringing us back to the first album they ever bought. And trust me, it's a good one. Welcome, and this is really true, my lifelong friend, Mike. And what did you bring to us today, Mike?
Today I brought to you OU812 by Van Halen.
Good album. We'll be talking about it. I want to give you some quick facts. 51 minutes. That surprises me that albums didn't last but less than an hour. It debuted at number 1 because everyone was so excited about 5150. It debuted at number 1. It had 4 singles that were in the top 40. Sold over 4 million copies. Me and you were talking, and I said, I want to get you on the show, and I want you to tell me the first album you ever bought. But then you told me some stuff before you bought stuff. So I want you to tell all the youngins how we used to listen to music. And before you bought a CD or an album, how did you listen to music?
So as you know, I grew up without lots of spending money around. And it was very, very typical to record off the radio. You know, when you'd hear the beginning of a new song you loved, you'd just hit record and you'd have a tape ready at the end of the last song you recorded or whatever. I did at one point had a record player. It was a hand-me-down from one of my cousins with like a handful of albums. One of those was Boston Third Stage that I'd gotten as part of that stuff. And then my sister, older than me, had some albums and tapes, Bee Gees albums, tapes like Commodores and stuff like that. But it wasn't until in the late 80s when I graduated high school that I actually bought my first album with my money.
Wow, so this one came out in 1988, May the 24th. I'll ask you the most important question ever about this, about the switch from Sammy Hagar to David Lee Roth, or vice versa. Well, I will wait on that question, okay? Because everybody will want to know what we think about that. Let's start with side 1. Side 1 starts with "Mine, All Mine." My favorite line of this song is, "Forgive me, Father, I have sinned. Allah in the east, Jesus in the west. Christ, what am I as a man supposed to do?" Love this song. What do you think about it?
I like it a lot, and its style isn't even traditional kind of Van Halen.
No, not at all.
Even 5150 Van Halen, or Van Hagar, to your point.
Yeah.
Right? No, it's got a bite to it and a hardness to it that I really liked. But one of the things I appreciated, not to jump the gun, but I appreciated about Van Hagar was, a lot more of the songwriting. Sammy was writing a lot more of the songs. David Lee Roth did want to get by more by doing covers of popular songs like California Girls. He envisioned them doing a lot more of that, whereas Sammy wrote songs. And you can tell in the lyrics on songs like "Mine, All Mine."
Yeah, we'll talk about how much influence he had later on, because there's something going on backstage, as we say in the wrestling business. But some stuff going on backstage during the making of this album. But Sammy, I was a Sammy fan before. So me being a Sammy fan, listening to his albums, me and my buddy Lloyd, And then all of a sudden he's with, one of the most popular bands at the time. And so I was excited about it. This song just, I don't know. It opens the album and it's perfect to open the album with. So the second song, When It's Love, who can't like this song?
Right.
It's you look at every face in the crowd, some shine and some keep you guessing and waiting for someone to come into focus, teach you your love lesson, your final love lesson. It's all about finding love, and you don't expect that from hard rocker Sammy Hagar. He's making a love song here.
Yeah, and I think that wasn't that one of the first songs off that album to really hit or to go to number one.
When It's Love went to number 5. Yeah. It was the biggest charter. What surprises me, we'll talk about this song a little bit later, the first single they released for this was Black and Blue, which I thought was really weird. But this song, I mean, you can hear this song in commercials, you can hear it on movies, you can hear it everywhere. I mean, it is still awesome to listen to, and I like it a lot. So,
yep, I agree.
All right, so the next song is AFU. And
Naturally Wired. That's the parentheses.
I know it. Yeah. What does AFU mean?
Oh, no.
That's what I thought it was. I saw somebody on the internet say it meant something else, but I'm gonna go with that. Rockin' song, edgy. It's rock and roll. It's what it is. And then Eddie Van Halen jumps in, does a lot of stuff. My favorite lyrics is 90 Days on the Road. It's what I need. When the axe cuts me deep, I let it bleed. I love that kind of stuff. And it's about being on stage. It's about rocking. It's about all fucked up. I don't know. Maybe Eddie was all fucked up all the time during the making of this. Well, but I really like this song.
He might be referring also to kind of their natural tendency. Sammy brought a lot of energy. Now, David Lee, he did jump around and dance around a lot. But Sammy just brought energy. And I think that's kind of that naturally wired is where that comes from.
And to me, it's two different bands to me. And it's probably, you keep saying Van Hagar, and you feel the same way I do, I think. It's two different bands. I think my favorite, I'm just going to go ahead and say my favorite two Van Halen albums is the first album and 5150. I like this one, but that's the two. And so it's kind of weird because the first album David Lee Roth was ever on and the first album Sammy Hagar was ever on. I like both of those the most. But like I said, this was just a rocking song. The next track is one of my favorite songs on the album. As you know, and it's been told a million hundred times now, million hundred, that's a number, by the way. It's a place to go, to chill out, to have fun. And everybody knows where it's at now. But when that song came out, did you have any idea?
No. I thought it was kind of made up. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know it was a place.
Cabo Wabo. What's a Cabo Wabo?
Well, on the the guave worm.
Yes.
And I'm like, what? I mean, you got to remember, I was just still in high school when this came out, or finishing high school, literally.
Right.
And, the guave worm, and I'm like, what are they talking about? I didn't know tequila. Some of them had worms in it.
This is a party song for Sammy, and if you've seen Sammy on television lately, this is still him. He's I don't know how old he is. He's 70-something years old.
Yeah,
this is him. It talks about it being south of the border, lots of girls, white sand. My favorite part of this song is where he's face down. So in other words, dude got wiped out, crazy drunk, and he's laying in the sand. But I really like that song. It's one of those where when I first heard it, like you said, what the hell are they talking about?
Right.
1988.
Here, real quick,
right.
On that song, to that point, that's one of my bucket list items is to get down to the Cabo Wabo Cantina.
I would love to, and I just want to shout out to our old buddy Ron Forbes. He goes down there once a year, so
nice.
Yes. Source of Infection is the next song. Some of the reviews said it was kind of punk. I didn't think it was kind of punk. quirky, fantastic. Hey, all right, woo. You know what? I'm going to say something here. And people that loves Van Halen, Van Hagar, this sounds like a David Lee Roth song to me.
It kind of does, doesn't it?
He's just jumping all. In my mind, I can see Hagar jumping all over the place singing this song.
And what did you say that people called it that you didn't agree with?
It punk-like. They said it
is kind of punkish now that I'm thinking about it. When you think of the courses, love, love, love,
but don't that sound like David Lee? I mean, that's the kind of stuff he loved to do. Come on, oh yeah, dig it.
Yeah.
I was listening to it. What I do, my process, and I've mentioned this on the show before, is that when you give me the album, when you say, hey, what do we listen to? Then it goes on it's on YouTube. It's either on YouTube or Spotify for the next 5 days. I'm listening to it over and over in between podcasts. And the first time I heard this, I was like, wait, I thought this was Van Halen. I really thought it was a David Lee Roth song. It really comes off as that. All right, guys, we're at the halfway mark, and you know what happens. We go to commercial break, and when we come back, we call it halftime. We got 10 fun facts about OU812. Are you ready? Every Friday night, the heat rises in Arkansas. The lights go down, the crowd gets loud, and MCW takes over. This is live, hard-hitting, in-your-face action at the MCW Arena, West Kaiser in Osceola, Arkansas. Doors open at 6:30, bell time at 8 p.m. sharp. Rivals explode, bodies hit the mat, and the stars of MCW leaving all in the ring. This ain't just wrestling. This is MCW. Tickets on sale right now. Don't wait. Be part of the action. Follow MCW on Facebook for the latest updates. And be there every Friday night. Or hear about it later. Card subject to change.
Jackson, Tennessee, get ready to kick your summer off with a laugh as Highland Avenue Comedy brings the funny to Hub City Brewing Company June 6th at 8 p.m. Get ready for a night of non-stop laughs with some of the best comedians around. Whether you're out with friends or planning the perfect date night, you don't want to miss the show. Tickets are only $10, and you can get yours now at HubCityEvents.com and come enjoy some great drinks, great vibes, and even better comedy. Highland Avenue Comedy at Hub City Brewing Company June 6th at 8 p.m. Be there!
Don't miss Memphis Wrestling Live. Saturday, June 6th, it's Wrestling Night with the Memphis Hound Dogs at the Memphis Sports and Event Center. Sunday, June 14th, don't miss Memphis Wrestling Legends PG-13 are coming to Memphis Wrestling, plus Action Mike Jackson. Friday, June 19th, Memphis Wrestling is coming to Jackson, Tennessee. Join us live at the Picture Perfect Event Center. Saturday, June 20th, catch Memphis Wrestling live at Brewfest 2026 at Shelby Farms. And in Tupelo, don't miss TCB Fights benefiting St. Jude, featuring UFC Hall of Famer Don Fry. All tickets are on sale now. Get yours right now at memphiswrestling.tv.
All right, we're back from commercial. It's halftime. Halftime, baby. All right, there's some of these facts. I'm just going to go through them, but you know this. The title is a joke. No kidding, really? What is it?
OU812?
They said there's a dig at David Lee Roth by the title. So David Lee Roth's EP was Eat 'em and Smile, so they named this OU812. I didn't know that. As we already mentioned, it did debut at number 1, which is pretty cool. Back then, that meant something, youngins. Now we don't even know what that means because there's all these streaming numbers and all that. When It's Love was a massive hit. We already know that. Become one of the band's biggest singles and staples of late 80s rock and roll. By the way, in 1988, I was in my third year of college. I had moved to Jonesboro, so I was living in Jonesboro then. So
2021?
Yeah. Eddie experimented more with keyboards. He leaned heavily into synthesizers again, continuing the direction started on 1984. The band almost burned out making it. Recording was reportedly stressful with internal tensions and pressure, and they almost said screw it. The cover has a strange origin. The album art featured two men wrestling, taken from a stage photo that looks way more intense than it was meant to be. And they totally changed that cover because it's just them four on the front. So weird. Cabo Wabo, we do know it is real life, and it is the Cabo Wabo Cantino in Mexico that's owned by Sammy Hagar. A Political Blues is a cover, which you mentioned that it was something David Lee Roth would like to do, and it surprised me that they went right back to it to do. And this song to me is one of those songs that was not popular in any way to me.
I don't think it got radio play, did it?
No, but I didn't even know the original. I didn't even know this song, you know. Little Feet, it came from Littlefoots. No. Not all fans loved it at first. Can you believe that?
Well, I did, and to your point, part of what made it different was it was just bluesy. It was so out of character for a rock band.
Well, I'm going to talk about that song when we get to it, but I'm talking about the whole album. Fans didn't like it. Some of them thought it sounded too pop. Some of them said, but, you know, that's just normal. And it's worse now. If somebody comes out with a brand new album, they'll say they don't sound like they should. And then the other section of people will say, well, I wish they would change something and do something different. So you can't never. I love this album from the day I listened to it. I really did. It was a good album, and it's something that stayed around. All right. That was halftime, folks. And after halftime, we go to side two. Side two starts with Feel So Good. So we got some keyboards. We got a groove going on. This is probably typical pop rock. I mean, this is what, you know, this is radio play is what it was.
Yep. I liked pretty much every song, but yeah, I like this one, and it rolls into the next one very nicely too.
Yeah, I like the lines, I'll send the message in a bottle, trust in the mercy of the sea. So in other words, I'm going to put a message in a bottle. I'm going to say, please bring me love. And he's going to bring me love. The sea is. I love that line. It's just one of those things where it's romantic, kind of romantic, but coming from a rocker.
Yep.
Next up is Finish What You Started. Acoustic driven song, country blues. You said some kind of bluesy. Eddie Van Halen steps away from the heavy distortion, just grooving and having fun with this. And he says this song is. He says if you want to see other guys, well, baby, it's okay. It's all right. Just so as you see me. And I just thought that was so funny. I'm like, you know what? You want to go out with another guy? Well. If you come over to my house after you see this guy or before you see this guy, that's fine with me. I don't really care. You know, what we call that now is a booty call there, Sammy Hagar. So that's all he was worried about in this song, but just a really, really good song. We started, anything you want to say about that one?
No, I mean, I guess I do. About the only thing is it was definitely, again, I think it stretched Van Halen as a group. To do that song like that, like you said, it was pop. It was not hard rock. It used more acoustic or clean electric, sound. And when you back in the day when we used to listen to albums, every song in a row, that was a good follow up album to Feel So Good.
Right. The next song, it was their first single. And it surprised me because I like this song, but if I was picking singles, this wouldn't have been it. Black and Blue is Do It Until We're Black and Blue. I think this is very, very suggestive, Mike. I think maybe they're suggesting something's going on.
I'm sure
not
that's
sure,
why I
but-
liked it. So being the first album I bought, it was after high school graduation. Me and some buddies were doing an overnight trip, and we were at the mall the next day, just at one of the record stores when they had those. And I was buying a cassette. My friend Johnny had a CD player in his house.
Woo, he was fancy, wasn't he? He was fancy.
So he paid the expensive cost for a CD, but I got the tape. And on the way back to home, we put my tape in, and we just listened to that song the entire time. We did. We listened.
By
to
the
that
way, shout out to Johnny, because Johnny plays fantasy football with me. He's been playing for 11 years. So,
Nice.
yeah, it's weird how the people from the past, you end up still being friends with them and everything. Okay, so I'm just going to say this before we get to the last two songs. I never listened to these two songs. I was not a fan of these two songs. And
really?
When these two songs came on, I just did not listen to him. A sucker in a three-piece suit. I get
I
it.
like that one.
He talks about girl not liking the way he wears or he dresses. She don't like the way he wears his hair or anything like that. This girl possibly wants a guy in a three-piece suit. One of these
Right.
like a
Gold
preppy guy.
digger.
Yeah. So that's what she's
Right.
about. And I did not like the blues song, the Little Feat song that you said you really liked that one.
I liked it. I mean, at that time, I think Van Halen was probably my favorite group.
Oh, wow.
Period. So they could have put out dog shit. And I'd have probably been like, yeah, but do you hear what Eddie was doing on that? I did find myself becoming somewhat of a Van Halen apologist when the Van Hagar era hit, because I did like it. I liked Eddie and what he brought to the table so much that to me, it wasn't, oh, you can't replace the singer. Yeah, totally replace the singer. And to your point, I was a Sammy Hagar fan. I liked the tunes. I probably borrowed or got a bootleg tape of Sammy from you.
No, we did not do that. No.
And so, yeah, I thought it, and like you said, 5150 was a massive hit. I really liked it. So, OU812 couldn't have been out for a week or so when we graduated, because we weren't graduating in June then. We were graduating in May. So
coming out the 24th. Yeah, it came out 24th, 1988. Right. So it's right there. Yeah, you're right. You just graduated. So albums like that. This is one of those albums that I didn't remember the cover, but remembered every song except those last two. And the reason I didn't remember those last two songs is I always skipped them. I always said, okay, we're going to rewind it. We're going to go somewhere else.
Right. Flip the tape and go back.
Yeah. Okay. So here's some real quick questions I like to ask. What was the first track I think you answered that. What was the first track you played on repeat?
Yeah. Black and Blue.
Black and
Blue. That was, we cracked the tape open, took the wrapper off in the car to get ready to go home. So once we listened through and got to Black and Blue, that was just the one.
Just kept rewinding it. Looking back now, does this album still seem to hold up to you? I think it does. It was still good to me. I don't. Yeah. Did the album shape your future music taste, or was this just a Van Halen stage, or is this something that you go back and listen to?
I don't know that a band in particular shaped my kind of musical outtake or the way my tastes overall. Obviously all my influences combined are my taste.
Right.
But no, if anything, I was a huge Van Halen fan. I found myself being an apologist for a couple of albums. And then when Balance came out, I wasn't a fan.
Right.
I wasn't a fan. And I couldn't tell you one or two songs off of that album.
I can't either.
And that's pretty sad, because I could tell you most of the songs on most of the Van Halen albums. So
I always think it's got, my music, stuff changed when stuff was happening different in life as I was going through owning my own restaurant or getting married or having kids. It's like you forget it, forget about music sometimes. But when I started doing this music podcast, I was like, my first album we did was Grease, the soundtrack, and I didn't. I just asked somebody to be on the show, and I said, "What's your first album?" She said, "Grease, the soundtrack," and I squealed like a little girl, because I loved it. We have not reviewed my first album yet, and I haven't told anyone what it was. But we will eventually get to it. There'll be somebody around here that had it the same thing. Any memories you talked about, being in the car with John, y'all, any other memories, concerts you go see Van Halen that you, friends, heartbreak, whatever you think about when you listen to an album like this?
No, I do, like I said, have a lot of love for Van Halen in general. So there are times and places where certain either songs are associated or whatever. But I think the main thing was being able to go see. I wasn't, as you know, allowed to go to concerts, especially as a teenager. So that album came out in '88, and it was 91 or 2 when Live Without a Net. You can get the video, but they shot it. They shot Live Without a Net and produced it as a video to release on like VHS.
Right, yeah.
And then they did a tour around that time that they just called Live Without a Net. And they came through the college town where I was. So got to catch the Van Hagar version of Van Halen.
Awesome.
There. Yeah. So that was really nice. Eddie just is phenomenal. And, it's kind of weird because as we age, the musicians we grew up with have aged, and some have been able to keep going and do so well. And some, it just kind of falls apart. You know what I mean? And it was kind of a shame to watch things kind of fall apart with Eddie at the end.
But just for the heck of it, you listen to his son's albums?
Matter of fact, I was watching, I was watching an interview with him from Rick Beato. He had an interview with Wolfie talking about one of his songs because he used in one of his new songs. He uses a similar slapping technique to what Eddie used on Mean Streets.
I loved his first album, but the second one, we're not talking about that album, but the second one, this is going to sounds like a music critic, but it sounded too much like the first one. It's like it was a double album. I was like, wait, what the hell's going on here? Let me see. Best track on the album for you.
Oh, that's a good one. Man. Mine on Mine's way up there. Just because it does cut. And it's so different from many of the other things. I'm trying to think.
I like Mine on Mine. I like When It's Love. You gotta like that song, and I like.
I do, and Finish What You Started. I mean, but to your point, those are a bit more on the pop side. And if I'm looking, out of the standouts on that album, Black and Blue, I really like sentimentally now more so. But Mine on Mine. It's one of those that I like to go to the album on Spotify because I don't hear it on 80s on 8 or any of the XM stations for rock. Right. You just don't hear it. So
any track you skipped, and I'll just go ahead and answer mine, the last two. So
yeah. I would just listen to it all the way through. There weren't any that I was just like, I can't do that one.
Yeah. There's the thing about it is when you appreciate the full album, it changes because you used to just go for the tracks, for the pop, the hit tracks. Mm-hmm. But I remember like some of the Bob Seger stuff, AC/DC and all that. I started listening to the full albums and I was like, oh my God, every song. Bad Out of Hell by Meatloaf was the first album I listened to every song and liked every song. So anything to cringe on this album? I don't see it as anything cringy on this album.
I don't. Nope.
I didn't see that.
I wouldn't say there. Now I'm sure there's artists and albums that have some cringe on it, but when I think of Van Halen, I don't think of any.
Yeah, we did a Motley Crue, and there's a couple things on it. You go, ugh. This is kind of weird questions. Sometimes we can't actually come up with it. But if there's anybody that current artist that you listen to that you'd like to hear do a Van Halen songs or anyone?
No, I can honestly say I really don't think I've ever had that kind of thought train of, oh, I'd like to hear this artist do this classic tune or whatever. I am a fan when people do redo classic tunes and they do it well. But I no, I don't have like a wish list or something.
Right.
Man, if anything, being a would be kind of pseudo amateur musician, I would love to at some point when I get nothing but time and can retire or something to maybe remake some of my own tunes. Some of those old classics, remake it myself.
How about that Mark Gray, man? We make that Mark Gray song. So there you go. I want to pick.
I got a copy of that, by the way.
I do too. So.
I secured a copy of that from Mr. Chris. I don't know if you knew that. I played that at his wedding.
Oh, I didn't know that. Man, we're talking about Mark Gray. Probably no one knows who the hell we're talking about, but he is so just fantastic. Black and Blue by Youngblood. I want Youngblood to do it. If you don't know who Youngblood is, he's probably one of the very few rock and roll guys, very young, British, comes off as a cross between Mick Jagger and Steven Tyler. He did the Aussie concert and did Changes. Just so talented. I'm a big fan of his. I got a crush on him. You had a cassette is what you had. Did you do it vinyl, cassette, CD, or digital? It's funny that we had a CD bought and a cassette that day. And you mentioned something that I think is hilarious, is that I never realized that CDs were almost $20 back in the day, 1888 or something like that.
Yeah, because the tapes were $8.99 or $9.99. And so CDs were like double.
And they sold you on the fact that it was a better sound. And I don't know if it was $10 better. The album was always the best sound for me. So
it's way better.
Yeah. Can you remember the album you bought after this one?
Yeah, I do, because that summer I bought a the old timey stereos with the glass door and the 4 or 5 components and the big speakers and all that. So I got one of those to go to college, and that had a CD player in it. So the next two albums I bought were the same day. I bought them at the Air Force Base because I could get them cheap there. And I got Mariah Carey's first album, Someday, right? And then Randy Travis's first album, Storms of Life.
I had the Randy Travis. I didn't have the Mariah Carey, but a huge Randy Travis fan at the time. Oh, yeah. If you would you recommend this album to somebody if they were saying, hey, Mike, what's some stuff you listen to? Would this be on the list?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, it would be. Now, I don't know where it would be if you started saying, well, you can only say, you're listening.
Right. If somebody said, look, let's listen. I would say, man, listen to some Van Halen. Listen to these albums if you want some rock and roll kind of thing. I love this question. If the album had a smell, what would it be? What were you going to say? If you're not watching the video, he almost said something. So
no, I'm stumped by the question.
I'm thinking about Cobble Wobble, and I'm thinking
black and blue,
sand, alcohol, and perfume. There you go.
It's alcohol and sex, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much the whole album.
Oh man! All right, guys.
All right.
Tell us about it, Duchess.
Coming up next is the Patreon portion of Hit Me With Your First Shot, B-Side Confessions, the After Dark bonus cut out of the episode. This is where the conversation goes a little deeper, a little wilder, and sometimes a little inappropriate. You've heard the main story. Now it's time for the confessions that didn't make the A-side. So pour a drink, turn the lights down, and get ready, because this track is strictly for the grown-ups.
And as everyone knows, you know what I'm fixing to say. This is same bad time, same bad channel on the best little music podcast in the business. Be there. And Mike, you know this. Everybody knows this. I love my mama.